May 30th, 1806. Andrew Jackson dueled with famed marksman Charles Dickinson, killing him after Dickinson insulted Jackson in a variety of ways, including Jackson's wife of a bigamist. This latter point was a very sore spot for Jackson, as his wife really had married him while she was still married to her former husband. Dickinson's father-in-law and Jackson were both horse breeders and rivals of one another at a time. The conflict between the two that eventually escalated to Jackson challenging Dickinson to a duel started in 1805. When Jackson had a $2,000 bet with Captain Joseph Irwin, Dickinson's father-in-law, on a horse race. Irwin lost and was forced to pay Jackson $800, though there was a disagreement between the two about which notes Jackson would be paid with. Later, Dickinson overheard a second-hand account of things, and Jackson supposedly said about Irwin over the matter and became angry at Jackson about it and fought with the person that was telling the story at the time, who happened to be a friend of Jackson. Dickinson then sent Thomas Swan to ask Jackson whether what he heard was true, which Jackson then later denied. But in the process, Jackson physically attacked Swan and said he was a stupid meddler. Dickinson then wrote to Jackson, calling him a coward and equivocator. This escalated to the point where the two were sending a series of insults back and forth, including publishing some of the National Review, such as the last one, which was the final straw. Published May of 1806 by Dickinson, calling Jackson a worthless scoundrel, a poltroon, and a coward, after Jackson had called Dickinson a worthless, drunken blackguard. Despite the fact that Dickinson was known to be one of the best marksmen in all of Tennessee, and dueling was illegal in that state, Jackson challenged Dickinson to a duel by sending him a note. He wanted satisfaction for the insults that were offered. Because dueling in Tennessee was illegal, they traveled to Logan, Kentucky, and dueled on the shores of the Red River. Jackson conceded the first shot to Dickinson, choosing not to fire when he turned, even though Dickinson was such a good marksman. The shot fired by Dickinson hit Jackson in the chest, just a few inches from his heart, breaking two ribs in the process. And not to be dissuaded, Jackson stayed on his feet, carefully aimed at Dickinson, and pulled the trigger. Only nothing happened, as the hammer had stopped half-cocked. So he recocked the hammer and pulled the trigger again, this time hitting Dickinson in the chest. A few hours later, Dickinson died, as Jackson's shot has damaged an artery. He was only 26 years old, leaving his wife a widow, all over a silly he said, she said type of argument pertaining to her father's honor. Jackson lived on and eventually became president of the United States. And although, because the bullet's proximity to his heart, it could not be removed, and it remained in his chest for the remaining 39 years of his life.